Outlander is in its 7th season and we're quite a way into it now. However, a couple of episodes ago, a character was introduced to us for the first time. And ever since he hasn't had much screen time, but there's been an ominous aura that surrounded him, and that's Rob Cameron. So I thought it was worth breaking down the character and explaining the type of person that he goes on to be, whilst also showing the influence that he has on the Mackenzies' lives in the modern day. This is by looking at what we've had in the show so far and also in the series of novels. So let's get into it. Here is why Rob Cameron is so important to Outlander Season 7. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers from the TV show and the book. Oh, and if you enjoy the video then feel free to hit subscribe. Thanks. Who is Rob Cameron? Well, in the small appearances that we've had of the character in the show so far, we know that he works at the same plant that Bree does, and that she's his superior. It seems as though he's the type of individual that's able to take a hold of a group and be the main voice that's present. This is due to what happened when he was at the pub, and also when it seemed as though it was him that led the pack with the idea to lock Bree in the tunnel and to not let her out. So he has the personality that's able to cut through in a group and can take control. We also saw that he had a nephew that went to the same school that Roger and Bree's Jeremiah went to, as he was in the class that Roger was teaching. Rob's brother has a sister called Martina, who lost her husband, hence why Rob is so involved in the nephew's life. He's formed a strong relationship with him due to the absence of his father. So Rob is very much ingrained within the community and has a touching point for both Bree and Roger. So far, he's come across as an okay individual, despite the locking in the tunnel that he did to Bree, which could be passed off as some kind of an initiation test at the workplace. But outside of that, he seems to be forthcoming, intrigued to get to know Roger and Bree, and has a smile on his face. But I have a feeling that things are going to get a lot more sinister. Is Rob Cameron a villain? I would say yes. Rob is definitely an antagonist in the modern day timeline in the Outlander series. Everything I just mentioned about him in being a smiling, forthcoming individual is almost like a mask, because he has alternative motives that look to benefit himself, and he has ideas for what he wants to achieve out of getting to know people, especially Roger and Bree. Within the most recent episode, we saw that Rob laid his eyes on Roger's journal and book that he's been writing, a practical guide for time travelers. This is a place where Roger's been documenting all that he knows about time travel so that it doesn't get lost through generations when he eventually dies. This is so that the lineage of his family will always have the ability to go through time. With Rob laying his eyes on it when in the class, in that moment it seemed as though he just passed it off as a sci-fi novel when he handed it back to Roger, but the reality of it is he didn't think that at all. I feel Rob most certainly knew that there was more than met the eye when it came to the text that he was reading off of the page. We must remember, Rob works at the same location as Bree, so he could have seen the time portal but just didn't know how to utilize it. And with Roger writing down in the book about what Bree saw when she was in there, he could well think that there's more than meets the eye. In the most recent episode, Rob arranged a dinner with Roger, and it's something that looks like it's going to be happening in the next episode. As in the trailer, we saw that they were all sitting around the table. Within the trailer, Roger mentioned how it seemed as though Rob had an eye for Bree and that he was being flirtatious with the way that he was acting towards her. Bree passed it off, but although it might not be something that's prominent and at the heart of the story immediately, it will most likely come back later on down the line, when Rob's true colours start to come through, and when Bree is on her own. If we look at the novels and how it could be replicated into the TV series, with Rob having an inclination that Roger and Bree might know quite a lot about time travel, he makes a trip to their home with his friend that's an archaeologist to inspect some artifacts and ruins at Lallybroch. However, whilst he's there and snooping around, Rob goes on to take the letter that we heard being read to us a couple of episodes ago from Jamie and Claire, which was addressed to Roger and Bree. This letter spoke of the Jacobite gold and the fact that Jeremiah knew of the location. This will bring the importance of the gold right back to the heart of the story, as it's not been mentioned in a few episodes. It'll be from here where Rob brings out his cunning charm, wit and smile, and the mask that he so effortlessly conveys will get put back on. He arranges a time for Jeremiah and his nephew to spend the day and evening playing together, but whilst that's happening, he instead takes Jeremiah to the time travelling stones at Craignadan, with the intention of Jeremiah taking him back to the 1700s and showing him the location of where the Jacobite gold is so that he'd be able to bring it back with him to the modern day and be full of riches. Amanda senses that something is up and ultimately notified her mother and father, Roger and Bree, of the fact that something was going on with Jeremiah, and this ultimately sparked Roger to utilize the stones and to go back in time to go and find Jeremiah in order to make sure that he was safe. However, what he didn't know was that Rob Cameron was unsuccessful in being able to get into the past and to find the location. So instead, he locked Jeremiah in the tunnel, the same tunnel that his mother was locked in when she first joined as the plant inspector, which then meant that Rob went and visited Bree whilst she was alone and without Roger, and he told her to tell Jeremiah to reveal the location of the Jacobite gold to him. With Jeremiah being under the tunnel and the time portals being there, who knows what could happen? He could end up finding himself back in the 1700s. So it's safe to say that based on the type of individual that he is and the direction that the story will most likely be heading towards with the character, he's most certainly going to be an evil individual in the modern day and cause a lot of trouble and trauma for the Mackenzies. There is another part of Rob Cameron that we will most likely come to see if the TV series follows suit to the novel, and that's something that will tie back to the line that we heard being present in the trailer that Roger said about Rob having an eye for Bree. With Roger being in the 1700s and looking for Jeremiah, Rob mentioned to her how another reason for taking Jem was so that he'd be able to get close to her and so that he'd be able to be intimate with her. This is something that Bree does manage to fight off in the novel, and she manages to escape all that he's trying to do. With Rob Cameron doing all that he can to secure the ability of going through the stones and also the location of the Jacobite gold, we're most likely going to be seeing Bree, Jeremiah, and Amanda joining Roger in the past, as they'll have to abandon the life that they were finally getting settled into the modern day. Rob Cameron is going to be the catalyst of the family's demise, and it's something that's definitely going to be interesting and exciting to follow on screen. He's charming and friendly, but beneath that front, when he takes off the mask, he's an evil individual that doesn't care for others like he says that he does. So if the show does follow suit to how the novel is, we're going to see him become this season's main villain. So, there you have it, why Rob Cameron is so important to Outlander Season 7. If you want to see more videos such as endings explained, theories and predictions, and character breakdowns, then click on the I button, or alternatively you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @BrainPilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What do you think is going to happen with Rob Cameron? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.